Okay, a video on standard graphic arts techniques for applying sticky overlays or graphics onto something. This is just a piece of overlay material to represent a meter panel, and these are supposed holes that are in the meter panel that you have to line up with. This represents your awesome graphics that you've printed out. You've already scaled in the two different axes to make your printer give you real measurements that jive, so that these holes you see here will line up. In reality, this would be something that you would cut out. Once you've printed your graphic, you would cut it out precisely to match up, and you'll notice that these holes line up with the mechanical holes that are in the actual panel. And then we have our overlay sheet, which is just clear material, which we're going to overlay on top of our printed graphic first. And this basically is just to show how we put a large area, or actually any area, sticky back material on without getting in trouble, which is very easy to do. Our printed graphic, first thing we want to do is we want to use some double sticky tape, just ordinary generic garden variety, and we're going to stick down the corners of this so that this thing does not scoot around as we go to align and smooth out the graphics, or smooth out the overlay. So that's double sticky down, so now we can pull on this, we can move on this and not have it carry on and slide off as we try to do something. So now we have to prepare our overlay material, and we peel back a small section of the backing material. We do not touch the overlay with our hands. Having a pair of flat nose tweezers like this to be able to touch the material without leaving greasy fingerprints is very important. And you also do not want to pull too hard, because you don't want to stretch and pucker the laminate. Some laminates are very rigid, some are kind of stretchy, and if you start stretching your laminate, then you can end up with problems, and it's even more so on when we actually go to laminate the whole thing on. So I've got my strip started here. I've got just about a ½ inch of area here. You don't want too much, just about a ½ inch. I'm making sure I do not touch the laminate. I take my tweezers, and I've got an end here where I've actually polished the tweezer so that I can use it to burnish down, and I'm making a sharp crease in the fold of the backing paper. That sharp crease is important because we're going to flip this over and align it, and we do not want a big bow or a wave in there that's going to affect where these things go. So we now line this up, and in this case our only line up that we're concerned with is lining up with the sheet. So I'm just going to physically line up with the outer corners and the edge here. But you can see by doing this, I've got a situation where I can move this around without it sticking and see where it is. Then you want a nice bar of metal, something that's flat, that will hold your position while you get this lined up. I can still slide this around. As you can see, I'm not stuck down yet. I can slide this into position. If it does stick down at all, you can just lift with your tweezers and get it started and get it lined up. Now that I'm lined up, now I simply gently rub this, getting this completely started and working from the outside edge towards the fold. Once I've got that, now I lift this sheet, I come underneath and I grab this corner, I grab the fold where we were, and I slowly pull this so that this gets started. And we start a slow wave going here where the material is I'm pulling the backing sheet off without losing the paper. Give it time to work. My tape is not sticking to my silicone tabletop very well. But now as this starts to go across, I'm gently taking my fingers back here and just slowly massaging this down. And by doing this, this wave keeps us from getting an air bubble in here. From the center out to the sides. Don't pull too fast. You're not trying to race here. Just give it time for the backing paper to slowly peel off. And it's basically keeping a controlled position of this. You don't want to put a whole lot of pressure on your fingers because you can actually stretch and massage the overlay and start to actually make it stretch further than you want to. So just pull along, working your way across. You can use a microfiber towel or whatever you want. And by the way, we should have wiped our custom overlay. We should have wiped it with a lint-free wipe to make sure we didn't embed anything. And we're going to pull this back in view here. This is scooting along the table because, like I said, the tape didn't stick to my silicone tabletop very well. So I'm going to just put a little duct tape down here to hopefully hold this down a little better. You typically wouldn't have a silicone mat that you're working on, so it would stick. So now I can put a little more pressure on here, and there we go. Now I can just work my way across. I was being timid there because I didn't want to drag the whole thing out of camera shot. By doing this, you're working from the center out. You're keeping from having any bubbles get in between. You're also not bending the base sheet. All of the bending is happening in the laminate sheet on top. Now these sheets had a actual tear strip on them to enable you to get started easily, but that would have been cheating, so I just peel that off. And so there's your laminate. Now you can take your microfiber towel or any soft non-scratchy towel and you can burnish this down, work your way from the center out. Now you have your laminate sheet on your actual graphic. Now we need to put this on top of our actual panel, and the whole principle here that we're trying to show is the ability to line up these holes precisely with the your meter panel. So we'll put what represents the meter panel in view here, and we will tape it down in the center just so that we can get started. And we will get 2 pieces of tape to put on after we get started in order to roll the whole rest of it down. I've got them prepared here on the mat. So now we'll do the same thing on this. We will get this started, a little 1/2-inch band, in order to fold back our little starting strip. And as you can see, the starting strip, it's important to have that starting strip very small, very short, so that it cannot fall down on its own weight and contact before you want it to. So on this one I'm going to be even a little more careful. I'm going to only make this about maybe 1/4 of an inch so that it does not get stuck on the top sheet, or actually onto the meter panel, before I want it to. So now this film should be strong enough or stiff enough that when I line this up, we're not going to have any trouble. This will scoot around on here and I can do what I need to do. So now I'm coming over here and I'm looking at my holes. I'm looking through the laminate to the hole, my clear laminate, to the hole that I cut in the actual graphic. I've got them lined up. I put my bar here, bring my bar up to the edge so that this is nice and flat. Double check my alignment on my holes, everything's good. Now I simply come down and gently touch down. The whole purpose of this setup is that I've got a controlled situation where I am lining the graphic and getting it to stick down. Now we'll put the duct tape on here, which holds to the silicone mat a lot better, and we will get rid of this because we don't want to be laminating on top of the thing. We can now take our wipe here, make sure we're good and clean, reach in, pull our our laminate sheet. Same procedure, just our fingers right here at the where the bend is, and we're slowly, and this is even more important on this one, to not pull, because we don't want to stretch this whole assembly here. We want this to be on its own, and actually the so now we're putting our awesome graphics down over top of our actual panel meter. You can see this is very controlled. We've basically eliminated all the possibilities for gross errors. Okay, and like I said, this stuff was pre-creased with this. Your material you used isn't probably going to have this. So we'll just tear this out of here to finish the lamination all the way. And there we are. Now, just as an example of how important it is to be gentle and slow, I actually was doing that a little fast. There's actually a little creep here where it got pulled and is stretched a little bit longer. I mean, we're only talking maybe 10 or 15 thousandths, but it still shows you that you need to be slow and not put a lot of tension on there. Let the stuff relax as you work your way across. But there's how you can put an overlay on both the laminate on top of your graphic, and then the combined laminate and graphic as a unit being applied to your panel meter or your instrument face or whatever you're doing.